Welcome to the 2014 Canadian Collegiate Athletic Association's Cross Country National Championships here at Confederation Park in Calgary, Alberta, hosted by the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology. I'm your host, Jared Hammer, and with me, Trevor Hoffbauer. Trevor, could you give us a little bit of your background with cross-country running?
Yeah, so I'm a SAIT alumni. I ran with SAIT for 2011 and 2012, and we won an ACAC championship together in 2012, so happy to be here today.
There will be 52 teams made up of a total of 218 runners from all over Canada here to compete in today's race. There will be 108 girls participating in the 5-kilometer run and 110 boys in the 8-kilometer run. The Grand Prairie Wolves, the Humber Hawks from Toronto, and the hosting SAIT Trojans round out your top 3 teams. SAIT, of course, making an enormous jump the last week in the rankings, moving from 8th to 3rd place just a week ago. Trevor, why do you think SAIT made such a big jump in the rankings?
Well, I think it's just a combination of everything coming together throughout their training throughout the year. It's a long season and they work hard throughout the year to get where they are now. And I think everybody just clicked at the right time and their fitness are at peak, so I think that's why they made the big jump. UBC is always strong. They were out here earlier on in the season to see how everything was going to be in terms of the course. So as long as they're acclimatized and they're used to this cold weather, I think they're going to have a strong performance and they could pull out the win.
SAIT finished 2nd last year in the Nationals. How great of a shot do they have to repeat or even come 1st this year?
I think they'll have a strong performance today. I don't know if they'll come in 1st, but it's anybody's game. If everybody has a strong race, it's a team game, right? So if everybody puts together their own race and they represent the school well and they run well on this course that they've been running on all year, I think that they have a good shot of coming in the top 3, and it's anybody's game for the 1st spot.
Trevor, what does the girls' course look like?
So the girls' course consists of 3 laps. So the first lap is a 1K loop. That 1K loop doesn't have a lot of hills to it, so it's fairly flat and it's going to be quick. So a lot of the girls, I think, they're going to go way too quick on that first lap, and who knows, they might bite the bullet on the 2nd lap, but the last 2 laps are all 2-kilometer laps and they have to go up this massive hill, so that could pose as a challenge, and I don't know how many of them will be ready for it, but that's where the trouble is going to come in.
3 kilometers extra for the boys. What does their course look like?
So their course consists of 4 2-kilometer loops. It's very repetitive, but it's challenging. So over time, when you keep on doing the same hills over and over again, you're going to build fatigue. It's going to wear away the body. So by the time the 6th kilometer comes, 7th kilometer comes around, it's going to be tough for them to kind of maintain their pace, and we'll kind of see some people drop off and you'll see the really strong guys pull ahead.
As the girls get ready to start the race, they're making their way to the starting line. How do they want to push off of the start? It's not like your typical 100-meter dash. It's a 5-kilometer race for the girls, 8 for the boys, as we mentioned. Do you really want to pace yourself right off the start? Do you want to lead the pack right out of the gate? How do most runners want to start?
The smart runners will pace themselves out of the gates. As you're going to see here in a couple minutes, they're all going to start out like a 100-meter race.
Lots of adrenaline running through these racers' bodies, and I'm sure each racer is going to give it everything they've got.
And there's the gun, and a little slower pace than we thought we'd see.
Yeah, I think in the men's race you'll see a lot more of a 100-meter start.
And there's Becca Gould, as we mentioned. She's leading the pack right out of the start.
Yeah, Becca's looking strong. She's had a good season thus far, so I think that she's going to have a good race today.
So over 100 racers in each race, all packed together at the start of the race and then thinning out throughout. When does that usually happen, Trevor? Is it halfway through, near the end, that we start seeing the crowd thin?
About 2 to 3 kilometers into the race, I think you'll start to see the groups kind of spread out and see who's actually the top athletes going forward at that point. So the race has the yellow and the red flags. So the yellow flags are going to be on the right-hand side and the red flags are on the left. So pretty much just guidelines the whole course. You got to stay in between those 2 flags. the two flag colors, and if you're running off the course, you're going to be disqualified. So as long as people just stay in between, they'll be good.
So it's been a fairly cool morning. How do you change your preparation if you're racing in cold?
So for racing in the cold, I think that you layer up a lot before the race to keep your body warm, but then once the race comes around, you strip down pretty much just to a singlet and shorts. You want to go as little clothing as possible, because when the race comes around, if you're too overdressed for the race, you're going to overheat and it's going to really play a factor. The teams from out east, I think it's been a little bit warmer, so they might not be used to how dry and cold this is. So it might be a little shocker to them, but the team from BC, they're kind of used to it, and then I know that up in Grand Prairie, they already have snow and we don't have any snow, so they're probably really liking this weather down here.
How hard is it not to panic when you're in the middle of the pack and you see 50 other racers ahead of you?
It can kind of play a little bit of impact, but if they're smart, they're just thinking of running their own race. It's kind of difficult to judge it off of everybody else. So as long as you run your race and you do the best that you can and not worry about everybody else, then I think you're going to have a really strong race. Everything in your legs, even I find using your arms is a really big factor into getting up that hill. So the people that shouldn't be at the front, that's when you kind of see them fall apart, just because they're trying to keep up with the leaders, and if they're going at a pace that's too uncomfortable for them, you're going to see them kind of slow down going up that hill, and they just won't be able to maintain it after that. So there's not a lot of rules to cross-country running. It's pretty much go out there and just give all you have. You run with your heart out, and there's no limitations to like physical activity or anything like that. So when I was running, it's like you can spike people, you can push people, you can shoulder people. It's pretty physical out there, and it can get pretty nasty, but it's pretty much go as hard as you can and just try and be first across the line.
And here come the girls at the end of their first lap.
Looking like Marielle from Grand Prairie up at first. We got Mariah Jenkins from Concordia and Jamie Wigmore sitting in fifth, who I think might pull out the win. Sarah Hewitt's placing really well right now in sixth, but don't be surprised if she finishes in the top three. She's had a strong year so far. But then that top six girls, they're all Canadians. So you can kind of expect to see that stay on strong throughout the race.
The first three grouped together very tightly still, followed by others in the middle of the pack.
Trojan girls are doing a good job of staying together, and I think they're going to have a strong placement as a team today. Becca Gould and Kate Sloan hanging out together.
Now, even though the race is pretty quick, roughly 25 minutes, people don't know the massive amount of work that is done behind the scenes to put on an event like this. SAIT has put together 2 banquets for the racers, the All-Canadian Gala the night before the race, and the awards banquet, which comes after the races. Then on top of that, the Trojans Outreach Program put on a community charity race that both you and I will be running in, Trevor, with all the proceeds going to Mito Canada. Do you want to explain just a little bit what Mito Canada is and what they're working to accomplish?
So Mito Canada was founded in 2009 by a couple of parents that were affected by the disease itself. So there is no cure to the disease, and it's pretty debilitating to a lot of the people that do get infected by it.
And what type of background does Mito Canada have with the running community?
So the Mito Canada community is massive in the running community as well, because Blaine Penny is a huge marathoner. He does a good job of representing the company itself at races, and he has a lot of friends that represent the company too, so, or the charity I should say.
Trevor, what are some advantages of running at home?
Well, advantages of running at home is huge. I think that being from Calgary and being from Edmonton, anywhere from Alberta, if you're an Alberta team running in this course, I think you're going to have the advantage, because with the climate, being at altitude makes a huge difference. I remember going down to Vancouver and then running in Calgary the next day, and like you're sucking wind. So if you're not used to this altitude up here, it's going to make a huge difference. And then also same with the cold. So the teams coming from out east, I don't know how cold it's been this year, but it's pretty nippy out here today, and I think that the cold could get to them. So who knows?
If by some chance we see everyone stuck together at the very end of the race coming down that final chute, and that is a very narrow chute trying to thin out who comes first, second, third, how much pushing do you think we'll see in there?
Depends on how many people are in that group. If it's 1 or 2 people, I don't think there'll be too much pushing and shoving, but as you did mention, it does narrow down quite a bit. So if there's a group of say 5, 6 women coming across that line, it could get fairly physical, but you do pretty much whatever you can to make it ahead of the competitor.
So Trevor, as you saw the first lap go around, any surprises with certain people you see leading the pack right now? Or is it just who you thought would be leading?
That's who I thought would be leading, with all Canadians, and then even Sarah Hewitt mixed in there. Yeah, no surprises so far after that first lap.
And the Trojans are celebrating their 50th year in the Alberta Colleges Athletic Conference. Our cross-country program being ran for all 50 of those years, and a big part of SAIT in the last few, being arguably one of our strongest programs. Trevor, do you want to explain why this program has been so strong for as long as it has been?
I think that this program's strong just because everybody, a lot of people like to run, and a lot of athletes do it as cross training. So the soccer players, the hockey players, basketball players, they do it for cross training. So I think that kind of turns over and helps out to influence the program. But also the influence by Coach Jamie Grant over the past few years has been huge to the program overall and to the athletes. So I think that Jamie does a really good job of helping making this program as great as it is.
The team cross-country running is unique in running because it is all about the team first. First and foremost, that's the goal of everybody, is to do well as a team, and there are multiple ways to get there. So just as a team, it kind of comes with racing, and we have a very encouraging atmosphere with the athletes, and try to keep it light and fun, and so that the athletes like being here. And then in the team atmosphere, everybody's pushing each other and cheering each other on in practice and then races. And if you can create a tight team atmosphere, then and that's fun and loose, it's a place that people want to be. So then the team atmosphere just kind of comes out of that. And then individually, like I said, you have to treat each athlete different, and what might be good for one athlete isn't necessarily good for the other. So you have a general training program that is meant for everybody, but then you kind of have to talk to the athletes and understand how they're feeling, and modify as you need as the season goes on.
As you can see up ahead there, you have Marielle Martins in first place. She's won every race in ACAC so far this year. Lindsay Webster is in third place.
And now, the pack really thinned out.
So you got the lead pack coming in across the bridge there. That would be Marielle Martins, and you got Lindsay Webster mixed in there as well. Also saw Mariah Jenkins hanging out in 5th spot. Last year she came 3rd in national championships. So expect to see her put on a really strong final lap.
How is it decided who wins the gold medal, who wins the silver, and who wins the bronze team-wise?
So it's all based off of point system. So the top 4 runners that place in the race, they're going to be making up the points for the team to define if they're going to win or not. So pretty much top 4 runners, if you can get ahead of the other team's top 4 runners, you're going to put yourself in a good position to win.
And we're just under 11 minutes into this race so far.
So strong pace by all the girls right now. So watch them keep it up. They have to do that massive hill once more, and then the race is over. So
as you said, Marielle Martins with a huge lead for the Grand Prairie Regional College. She is way out in front. In second place,
Jessie Lacourse.
Jessie Lacourse racing out of Quebec. And in third,
we got Lindsay Webster from Humber running strong. So I think that you can see that gap. It will probably tighten up a little bit over the next lap or so. Sarah Hewitt's in 7th place right now.
Most people think of cross-country running as a one-man sport, each racer battling alone out there by themselves against everyone else. But Sarah Hewitt says there's more to it than you may think. It's a very team-oriented sport, and she thinks having good teammates pushing you, encouraging you out on the course is one of SAIT's keys to success. Here's Sarah Hewitt.
Well, I started here at SAIT in September 2013 in the program of diagnostic medical sonography. It's quite intense, and coming from being a full-time athlete in the sport of cross-country skiing, it was quite an adjustment. But having that opportunity to compete here as a student athlete on the running team has been a huge help. It's an individual sport, but I think it's so important to have that team aspect as well, because if there's no team, there's no motivation for anyone to get out running, and everyone improves just by having teammates there to cheer you on and train with every day. Well, the cross-country scene tends to transfer over well to running because we do quite a bit of running for training for that. And I've always loved running a lot in the mountains and up hills, so particularly cross-country is a bit stronger for me. It's always switching quickly from up to down to flat, to gravel, to dirt, to grass. It tends to be where I accelerate is when there are lots of hills, so I can keep that pace up for most of the race, whereas lots of girls do tend to fade off throughout the race. Just knowing how to push through that pain and tell yourself to go faster and faster when you want to quit. Every race you do, you learn so much from it, and you learn what to improve on for the next one. Consistency is key too, just getting those hours in every day after school.
Becca Gould coming in at about 15th place there. So running really strong right now. And I think that you can see a lot of people are starting to get tired out. So I think that with her track experience, she's going to really start to pull forward over this next lap. Then just behind Becca, we have Kate Sloan coming through. Kate Sloan joined up with the SAIT Trojans very late in the year, basically on her pure love for the sport. She loves the work ethic that Jamie Grant provides her with, and she loves the team atmosphere from the women's team.
Allison McPherson now making her way up for the Trojans.
Yeah, Allison's looking pretty strong. She battled some troubles over the past couple of years just with health issues, but she's running really strong now, and watch for her to move up a few spots over the next lap. Got Meg Jorgensen coming through.
How much does the mental aspect play into cross-country running?
So through cross-country running with that race, it's very difficult to hold it together that long period of time. If you're pushing out too fast, you're going to be falling back and you're going to have people passing you, which really takes a toll on your mental game. But then also going through the pains throughout that period of time, you also have to fight through that. So the mental aspect of the sport is very demanding.
Yes, 25 minutes is a long time to keep pushing yourself and keep going. Staying positive can be a real battle. Trojan Becca Gould says she thinks the mental aspect of the sport is one of the most underrated and unnoticed parts of cross-country running.
I like running in general, and cross-country is interesting in a way because it's the most dynamic in terms of the actual terrain that you're running on. You can be on gravel, you can be on grass, you can be even crossing pavement in some cases. And some people really like that change of pace in a way. You go up hills, you go down hills, you cross creeks sometimes. I find the balance between school and sports almost go hand in hand in a way. Sports is almost like my mental break from school, and school is almost like my physical break from running. I find I focus a lot better after I have a good workout under my belt. Like I can sit, I can focus, and I can get the job done that way. So I find it almost goes hand in hand in a way. Running is a mental game for sure. The thing that I personally find helps when I'm running is just one step at a time. I break it down in hills because I know in cross-country running hills are my weakest link. And so when I encounter a hill, I go, okay, let's focus on this hill. Okay, that one is done, let's move on to the next one. The will to win really comes down to how much your heart really wants it. And there, I have raced races where my mind has kind of completely abandoned all reason, and I just say, okay, let's just go, let's just do this. And that's, I believe, where the will to win comes from, is once you put your mind to something, you are pretty much unstoppable.
And our cameraman on the golf cart having a hard time staying ahead of the leader of the pack. She is absolutely blazing out there. What is the average time that it takes the girls to race through?
From the race results that I saw over the past few weeks, the leaders tend to finish under 20 minutes, so they're somewhere in the 19-minute mark. I think that today, with the conditions being very favorable as they are, you can expect the winning time to be around 19 minutes or so, but then it also varies up to about 30 minutes.
What is the average speed of each runner?
So I think that the leaders, they're probably putting around 15 kilometers per hour. If they're finishing in just under 20 minutes, they'll be averaging just a little over 15 kilometers per hour. Everybody else will vary between that and going down to about 10 kilometers per hour.
Coming up to the 4.5 kilometer mark, our leader hasn't changed, but Sarah Hewitt for SAIT isn't too far behind and making up ground on the leaders as they near the halfway point.
And here comes our leader rounding the corner with
Mariel Martins from Grand Prairie Wolves.
And she is way out in front with, well, I cannot even see the next closest runner.
So Mariel Martins, unique story with her, she's also part of the Grand Prairie Wolves soccer team who placed third in the ACC championships. She ran the provincial championships up in Fort McMurray, and she left right away to get back to Edmonton to compete in that championship.
Martin's making her way over the bridge as she's close to being done the race, and she's got a terrific time so far. The rest of the girls continuing to battle, making their way towards the end. Jessie LaCourse, number 108 in second, and Lindsay Weber from Humber College in third, and has a good-sized distance between them. We talked about the possibility of a tight finish, but it looks like that may not happen.
And here she comes through the finish line.
That is Mariel Martins from Grand Prairie.
Leading the pack. She's going to finish strong too. She is not even going to hold up. And she crosses with quite the time. Finishing in under 20 minutes. And here's Jessie LaCourse making her way. She is absolutely beat, followed by Lindsay Webster
from Humber College there. In fourth place there, you got Jamie Wigmore from Grand Prairie. Depending on how the other cross-country runners do from Grand Prairie, they could pull out the national championship here as a team.
Sarah Hewitt pulling ahead and crossing. Finishing nice and hard.
Good job, Jamie.
Sarah Hewitt finishing sixth.
Gets very hectic at the finish line with people just really destroying their bodies and collapsing to the ground afterwards.
Giving it everything they have. They're absolutely exhausted. Each racer can barely stand afterwards. My goodness, that is such great determination. An ambulance has just arrived on scene. I think they're taking one of the girls away. Trevor, a girl literally just pushed herself to complete exhaustion that she has to be carried away with an ambulance. What does that say?
It shows that she went above and beyond pretty much for this race, but it's sad to see, but it's nothing uncommon. You see this in a lot of races.
Was it nice knowing the course as well as you do?
For sure. I think it's a huge thing. Like, we train on these trails every day, and it's a lot more calming for the nerves too. You know your pace, you know what you should be at, you know what's coming up, where it's going to hurt. And all that just makes it for a lot better day.
Walk me through that last bit of speed you put on to pass a few of the other racers right at the very end and pull ahead a little bit, and then dropping to your knees absolutely exhausted when you cross the finish line.
Well, to me, that's how every race should finish. You got to empty everything you have in the tank. So that's what I did, and I just made it hurt as much as I could. and try to spin those legs over as fast as possible.
Were you surprised that you got that far ahead of everyone else?
Yeah,
or?
I was surprised. I did not visualize it that way. Like, I visualized the race this past week, and it wasn't quite how I visualized, but it was pretty sweet how it turned out. I really tried to listen to my coach and trust him, and for sure he was right. I think I was really rested and just ready to like run so hard today.
And my last question, how happy are you? All of this work and you get first place, how happy are you right now?
Really happy. I'm just like super, I've been visualizing this moment for sure for this week, and then the relief I'm gonna have and the fun we're gonna have at the banquet tonight, and I'm just, yeah, it's such a relief and so awesome.
So the women's race has finished. Trevor, you want to talk about who rounded out our top 3?
Yeah, so Marielle Martin, she crushed the field out there. She ran under 20 minutes and placed first. We had Jessie Lacourse from Quebec. She came in second. And then we also got Lindsay Webster from Humber. She came in third.
And Trevor, what a wonderful ending. All the girls falling to their knees, absolutely exhausted. They gave it everything they had.
Oh, it just goes to show how hard they pushed themselves through that race. And when nationals come around, you leave nothing on the line. And you saw with some of those athletes, they were just done.
Absolutely, you love to see that.
Yeah.
That is it for the women's race. Next up, we have the men's race. We'll be back after this. SAIT, the men's team, sitting down ranked 12th right now. You, Trevor, however, think that this doesn't properly represent them and they shouldn't be taken lightly.
Yeah, I don't think anybody in this field today should be taken lightly. I know that Jamie Grant does a really good job prepping the guys' team, and they are ranked fairly low for what I think they'll place today. So they're a hardworking team. They do a lot over the off season and even during the season, so I don't think they should be taken lightly at all.
The girls were a little bit slower coming out of the gate. Trevor, what are you expecting from the men?
I think the men are going to be a little bit different. In a lot of the men's races, they go like it's a 100-meter dash, even a 50-meter dash. It's hilarious, but you're going to see a lot of the guys just gun off the start and try and hold on to it as long as they can. Okay?
And the Saints team having a group huddle, talking about the upcoming men's race, both teams encouraging each other. A lot of the men's team getting very psyched up for this race.
Yeah, I know that Fanshawe, they love to psych up their athletes beforehand, so with the competitive nature of their team, they love getting loud. I think that having your teammates to psych you up a little bit more definitely helps to push you onto that next level. So when you hear a lot of the team cheering, that's basically to pump up the whole team overall. But a lot of the preparation is all done yourself the night before, the week before, even a few minutes beforehand. The men's team, as I've had personal experiences with them, they are a fairly laid-back group, and they like to be relaxed beforehand, so they don't do any major cheers because, honestly, I don't think they like doing cheers. So it's their kind of way of just getting ready for the race, and as you can see over there, you got David Greer, and I think he's going to have a strong performance today with his cross-country team background and really hammering up those hills.
On your marks.
And there's the gun. The men are off. A quicker pace.
Matt Vrielik from SAIT just like literally shot out to the front and cut off a few people. But hopefully he picks up the pace and keeps it consistent.
How is it decided who starts at the front of the start line and who is further to the back?
Yeah, good question, Jared. So it's not really told by any coaches of who's going to be starting out first. It's going to be your teammates saying, hey, you're the stronger runner, you should go ahead so you can get the advantage, stuff like that.
So much quicker pace. We can still see that it is still a tight race, everyone grouped together. Do you expect this from the men?
I think so. I think the men's field is pretty strong, so I think they'll be well nestled together after the 2 laps here, and then after, I think 2 laps after 4K mark, they're really going to start to spread out. Once they get a couple of those hills under their belts, they're going to kind of fatigue out.
And what are some of the techniques that racers use to conserve energy throughout an 8-kilometer race like this?
Oh, you draft behind people. It's so much fun. It kind of sucks when you're tall like myself. You have the shorter people stand behind you, and the wind, it kind of blocks out the wind. So drafting is the most common way to conserve energy, but then also just really focusing on your pacing and your breathing and making sure that you're not pushing yourself too hard, too early.
We've talked a lot about going up the hill. What's it like going down the hill?
So going down the hill, what I usually do is just kind of like let my legs loose and I just kind of take it in stride. So you kind of conserve your energy down the hills. I know that a lot of people really like to rocket down the hills, and everybody has their kind of way of going down, but same thing, I think a lot of people like to take it as a breather as when you go up.
Jonathan Tedeschi leading the pack right now as we're just 1 kilometer into this race. He's being chased by a pair of Lethbridge College Kodiaks, number 162 Edwin Catani and number 163 Bose Corer. Then 2 Seneca College racers, Jameson Teague and Davis Chiriot, following close behind. The leaders still have a quick pace, but it will be interesting to see if they can maintain it as the race moves on. 4 SAIT runners still in the mix of things, sticking together only about 100 meters behind the leaders.
And there you can see coming over that first hill there, about 1 kilometer into the race is the men, just coming down that hill there.
And still pretty packed together nicely.
And that golf cart is maintaining its position.
1 leader and then a lot following, but everyone is still pretty close, packed together, as you can see them up on that hill. Trevor, which team do you think is the biggest dark horse in the men's side today?
On the men's side, I think that Fanshawe College should not be taken lightly. They do have a history of winning, and they always have a really strong mix of men on their team. So I think that with their preparation going into this race, that they'll place really high. I also think that Humber College is a team to look out for. They've been ranked 2nd all year, and they just dropped down to 6th. So when you look at the rankings, it's kind of hard to determine who's going to place in first, but I think that Humber has a good potential of winning this race today.
And a lot of fans out here today, Trevor.
Yeah, it's quite overwhelming. It's nice to see a lot of people coming out and supporting our local runners and the student athletes in general.
Does that help, having a big fan base cheering you on?
Definitely. I found that whenever I'm racing, if there's nobody out there, you have no motivation to really push yourself. When you have a lot of friends, family out there, even people that you don't know that are cheering you on, it definitely helps to keep you motivated and keep you going. This is also a good way to really showing your school support when you have the women's team that just ran, and now they're out there cheering on their men. So,
Coach Grant setting up to talk to his runners as they will make their way through the first lap. What do you think his words of encouragement will be?
From my experience in this group, he's going to say, "Good job, Matt. Good pacing. Keep where you are, and try and pick off a few people as you're going through the race." He's not a numbers guy, so I know that he's not going to say, "Hey, you're in 4th, and this is your time so far, and this is your pace." But he's just going to give a lot of words of encouragement. So as you can see down below, you got Edwin Catani in first, as well as Boaz Karor from Lethbridge. I think that they'll be the leaders heading out throughout this race, and they're really going to help push the tempo.
And they're making their way over the bridge.
Yeah, so they're about just coming into their first lap here out of 4, so almost in the 2 kilometer mark here.
And still a pretty tight race.
And really no shock about who's out in front. 3 All-Canadians, Tedeschi, Catani, Corer, Oleski, and Briand, all out in front there.
Edwin Catani leading that first lap, as well as Jonathan Tedeschi. He's in 3rd, 4th there. And I believe that also in that pack is Jeremy Briard from Quebec as well.
So 2 Lethbridge College students.
And 2 athletes from Quebec.
All Canadians are nominated by the running community, and then the Canadian Colleges Athletic Association chooses their 6 All-Canadians. Usually student athletes who have dominated their races throughout the year.
First SAIT runner coming through is Matt Vrelick. It's his 2nd year of competition, and he's really pacing himself well.
And just as you said, I heard Coach Grant say, "Good job, Matt, keep going."
Yeah, so Jamie, not being the numbers guy he is, he's just giving them small words of encouragement. And we also got David Greer coming in second for SAIT, placing well, and then got Carson Gunn and Sean Hickey really working together to push themselves along.
Yeah, sticking together, encouraging each other to keep going.
Making their way onto one of the many hills this course has to offer, and a lot of the racers really finding Coach Grant's course challenging. Making sure they stay on the grass and avoid the pavement, staying in between the flags.
You can hear Coach Grant telling Michael to catch those Concordia guys ahead of him. Small words of encouragement.
As you can see from our mobile camera down the hill, some of the elevation these runners must conquer.
Augustana's coach with some good words of advice for his runners as they make their way back from the start to start the second lap of this race. Very loud and verbal with his team.
Yeah, he's a strong coach. He's been around within that group for a number of years now, and he has the opportunity to coach Devin Woodland, which was a strong athlete for him for a year.
Our leaders surprisingly maintaining quite a quick pace even up these hills, and they're neck and neck still, both refusing to give up the lead. Hoare and Oleski not far behind, battling for third and fourth. Both Kadeshi and Katani really pushing each other here, and this could mean trouble later on, as some of the other racers may have been very conservative and content with hanging back and waiting for the right time to make a move for the lead. Now Tedeschi starting to slow down as he gives up a little lead to Katani.
As the men make their way up to this hill the second time, Trevor, do you expect it to weed out a little more?
I think it will play a little bit more of a factor. Over that first lap, you can really maintain a strong pace through the first lap, but when you try and push it beyond your comfort zone for 3 or more kilometers, then you can really start to have that fatigue set in.
Now you can see there as they come down from the hill, you've got two right out in front.
Tedeschi from Quebec, one of the few racers from a Quebec school we see out in front. Which is surprising because 3 of the top 5 ranked teams on the men's side are from Quebec. So we certainly expected to see a bit stronger showing from the Quebecois.
And they're right up on our golf cart, and just as we expected, the crowd thinning out just a little bit.
David Greer pacing himself very well so far at about the 3-kilometer mark. Tedeschi and Katani making their way past the crowd as some of the girls who previously raced now out cheering the boys on.
We are 10 minutes and 40 seconds into this race so far. And kilometer-wise, how far are we?
Just over top of that hill there, they're going to be coming in at about 3.7 kilometers. Just about, give or take a few hundred meters. So they're holding a strong pace right now. I think that knowing Edwin, he's probably pacing himself conservatively, and with a lot of these races too, you want to conserve yourself for the last lap, and that's when you really want to push it beyond your limits.
Tedeschi retaking the lead, increasing his pace again, but this isn't the last lap like you mentioned, not even halfway through in fact. Their fellow All-Canadian Jeremy Briand coming almost out of nowhere to pass quite a few runners and wills himself into third place. So it will be interesting to see if Tedeschi can maintain this lead or if he starts slowing down because he's pushed himself too hard too early. And our leaders will push towards the start line again to finish lap number 2 and begin lap number 3.
Trying to overpass
in first place
them.
right now we have Jonathan Tedeschi and Edwin Katani. They're battling for first and second right now. In third place is Riley Hubbard Oleski from Fleming College.
And here are the leading two. They'll make their way past our bridge cam as they battle for first and second.
The middle of the pack still close together, perhaps pacing themselves because it's still very early in this 8K race.
And here are our top two racers.
Got Jonathan Tedeschi from Quebec and Edwin Catani battling for first and second there. And now in fourth place is Riley Hubbard-Lusky from Fleming.
And a couple of those Fanshawe Hawks that we saw getting pumped up earlier.
And Jeremy Briard has come into third place. So those top four guys, they're all Canadians. So you can kind of expect to see them remain in that spot. Also, Boaz Koror from Lethbridge, dropping off a little bit. Might have pushed it a little hard off the start, but I think that he'll continue to have a strong race. And as you can see there, Fanshawe College, they really work well together because in the end it is a team sport. So working together as a team is going to get you that championship.
Yeah, that's...
So you have they have their top three athletes within the first 10 spots right now.
Ryan Foote and Luke Deegan. Here's Matt Brelink, our first Trojan.
Yeah, so Matt's pacing himself really well. I think that he can pick off a couple more athletes as they continue on in the race. Your second state Trojan athlete is David Greer, placing himself well. Sean Hickey is in third for the Trojans. Carson Gunn is in fourth right now.
While some students find it hard balancing sport and school, SAIT's Carson Gunn says the two give him a nice mental break. If he's getting stressed out at school, he can give his mind a break with a good run. If he's getting too physically drained with sport, he can rest his body and work his mind with his studies. Here's Carson Gunn.
I like the competition. I like the races. I love the ability to challenge yourself and do better every time. The feeling coming out of the gate is fast. That's what everybody thinks. Get ahead and stay ahead. Don't quit, don't slow down. Keep up with your goal time. Keep up with your goal pace. And you gotta finish strong. There's the hills, the different terrain, and then it's also a lot longer race. It's also 8 kilometers. So it's a lot more mental. It's a lot more in your head about what you're gonna do next, how you're gonna pace yourself. Running keeps my mind clear, having me focusing on something else rather than school. So you take a break and then you come back and you can focus on school when it matters. SAIT definitely has a good cross-country running program. Jamie and Ryan, they do a really good job on making sure everybody pushes themselves, but is good for the final big races of provincials and nationals. It's usually just a feeling that you have. It's not something that you kind of may not have a reason for. It's just having the feeling of accomplishment after finishing or after doing as well as you can do.
And Coach Grant encouraging his team to keep pushing, work your way through it.
He's SAIT Trojans' #1 motivator, so he's just keeping consistent with his words, not changing anything up. They are also offering water, so in races like this where it does get a little bit warmer, and like you saw with the women's race, everybody collapsed at the end, so could play a little bit of factor of dehydration. Provide them with some water so they don't really get too sick afterwards.
How do you stay hydrated before the race?
Before the race, you want to consume as much water as you can in the 48 hours prior. It doesn't play a huge effect if you're just drinking a liter or so of water before, like immediately before the race, but mostly the night before. Keep yourself hydrated.
And a couple of those runners taking advantage of that water now, drinking a little bit of it and cooling themselves off. Mostly cooling themselves off, it looks like.
Yeah, the sun's come out here and it's actually really nice now. So as you can see off in the distance there, they're at about the 5-kilometer mark. I'm seeing a white jersey again, so I would just lead to believe that's Edwin Catani, led by 3 of the other All-Canadians. I think that top pack will stay together quite well throughout.
Almost 18 minutes into the race now. Trevor, what is the average time that the men take to finish?
The average time for them to finish about 5K is around that 26-minute mark. So they're holding pace strong. This isn't a fast course by any standards, so it's we'll see how they place in the end, but I think that winning time will be around 26 minutes.
Now Edwin Catani all alone out front. It looks like Jonathan Tedeschi may have pushed himself too hard and finally had to slow down.
Competing at a high level in their sport is an honor and major accomplishment for most athletes. For David Greer, however, this isn't the first sport he's found success in. Here's David Greer talking about how cross-country running and skiing cross over.
My name is David Greer, and this is my first year competing in cross-country running. So when I came to SAIT, I was looking for something to do, be part of some sort of sports team, and running was a good fit because I used to run cross-country quite a bit as cross-training for skiing. It'd be a little bit of a learning experience for me, but at the same time, I have done sort of several races now and I'm sort of getting a good feel for it. And we have a very strong and motivated team, and we train together 4 or 5 times a week. Early in the summer, we'll be doing sort of more volume and distance training to get sort of your endurance base. So lots of just long, sort of easy runs. And the closer you get to the racing season, the more you sort of up the intensity. I used to race cross-country skiing at a high level, so I know what it's like to suffer. You do lots of races and they're anywhere between 1 and 50 kilometers and they're quite painful, so cross-country running is no different. What you try to do is you try to get comfortable at being uncomfortable, if that makes sense, because once it starts hurting, I mean, that's the time when you really got to dig down and start pushing even more, because that's when you're going to make up ground over other people. So the harder you can push and the more you can sort of make yourself suffer, the better you're going to do.
Going at that pace, it's getting close to about 18 kilometers per hour, which is moving pretty quick. It's difficult to maintain that pace for a long period of time. That would translate to like a 1:10 half marathon, which is beyond elite status.
Jeremy Briand now holding that second place spot and trying to narrow the gap between himself and Catani. Briand, I would assume, still with lots of energy left in the tank, having paced himself early on.
Why is the race held in November, Trevor? Because normally, we're lucky today there is none, but normally we have snow.
Yeah, it's a lot of the cross-country national championships take place later on in the year. Cross-country starts up in September and it runs in through November. Throughout the summer, a lot of athletes are doing track and field or their other extracurricular sports. So being held at this time of year is good because the temperature is at a moderate temperature, or the conditions are optimal to push your body to its limits, and there's not a lot of risk of dehydration when the temperature, or dehydration overheating when the temperature is at around that 0-degree mark. But like you said, we usually have a ton of snow at this time of year, so it's nice to see that we do have some grass peaking a bit.
And here come the 2 leaders over the bridge. They are well out in front now from the rest of the pack, slowly thinning itself out.
Darren Mancini now trying to harness some extra aerodynamics with the mohawk and pink compression sleeves.
As I mentioned before the race, I thought Edwin Catani had the potential to win this race, and it's definitely showing that he has that potential right now. So as long as he can hold pace and maintain this, he's set up for a victory. But
But chasing him is Jeremy Briand from Quebec.
He's doing quite well. He's got a nice gap as some Lethbridge fans cheer him on. He's going to take some water.
Also got Riley Hubbard-Oleski from Fleming College coming through looking strong. I think that those top three are really going to nestle together as the race continues, and they're going to hold strong.
We saw Edwin, he's so far out ahead. Do you think it's possible to catch him at this point?
I think it is. Yeah.
1 lap left. A lot can happen in those 2 kilometers.
As you can see, in comparison to that first lap where they're all really together, they've spread out quite a bit over this second lap going into their third.
And something you don't see from most sports is other athletes from other teams cheering everyone on. It's not just a battle of team versus team, it's really a battle of runner versus the course and just making it through, isn't it?
Exactly, and you're exactly right with that too. So we got Becca Gould that just ran the women's race, and now she's handing out water. So being very versatile in her capabilities of running a race and then just getting out there and volunteering. So it goes to show how strong our Trojans are within the community.
And she's cheering on her teammate Matt Vreeling, gives him a water and tells him to keep going.
Yeah.
Great to see.
That's the bond between the Trojans. It's beautiful.
Tom Strachan for the Trojans, slowly making his way up to his last lap.
Yeah, so we got David Greer coming in second for the Trojans there. He's run well. I think he's keeping consistent with his placing and doesn't seem like his pace has changed too much. It's also his first year. He has a ton of potential moving forward.
And he talked about how much of a benefit it is doing cross-country skiing as well. That helps him with cross-country running, he says.
Definitely. As you can see, if you do ever watch the Winter Olympics, the cross-country skiers push their bodies beyond their capabilities all the time. And you even saw in the recent Olympics, some of the female athletes, they crossed that line, they completely collapsed.
Our leaders now close to lapping the trail end competitors of this race.
Carson Gunn and Sean Hickey still sticking together in this lap.
Yeah, they're holding their paces pretty good, and they train a lot together throughout the year, so this doesn't surprise me by any standard. Becca Gould, definitely the loudest Trojan that they have, definitely making herself noticeable right now, cheering on the group.
And the volunteers cheering on these runners through their last lap, and a big thank you to them for helping set up and make sure this event ran so smoothly today. Edwin Catani now lapping a second tail end competitor. David Greer with just 1 kilometer left, trying to separate himself from a few of the other runners. Catani now making his way into the final 500 meters of this race. Let's hope he didn't push himself too hard and save some juice for this final push, because this is the time for all the runners to give it everything they've got left in the tank. Gunn and Hickey for the Trojans, pushing it now, trying to pass a few other racers as they enter the final kilometer of this race.
So we have the guys coming in about 300 meters here, just about to cross that final bridge.
It looks as though we know who our winner will be, but some of these racers still have another gear left. The rest of the All-Canadians pushing themselves in this final stretch for the finish, and it looks like this one will come down to the last 50 meters.
We got a strong push for the finish here. It's going to be tight between Edwin Catani.
He's chasing him, and he's about to overtake him, and he does. Wow, what a push at the end. What a great finish.
Pulls out the national victory.
My goodness.
Edwin Catani placing in second. Just didn't have it. Riley Hubbard-Oleski from Fleming placing in third.
Crawling to the finish line.
Great race. Fourth place is Jules Bruneau from Sherbrooke.
And these guys are absolutely exhausted. What absolute warriors.
Yeah, so it goes to show that you push yourself so hard that sometimes you have to just vomit at the end.
Wow, what a push at the end. And here comes our first Trojan. make his way. He's pushing through. He's trying to make it. He's trying to overtake.
Really pushing strong there at the finish. As busy as it is at the end, they do have the chip timing, which does secure their position, so it's not a big deal if they're
What a push at the end there. And there's David Greer coming through.
Work, David.
Great race by him. There's Carson Gunn collapsing at the end.
Coming third for the SAIT Trojans, followed closely by Sean Hickey, running really well together.
This is Sean Hickey and Carson Gunn. Carson, do you want to start by just talking a little bit about how hard 8 kilometers is?
Maybe it's not just the 8 kilometers, it's the 4 laps of 2K. You've done 1, you think it's tough. You've done 2, it gets pretty close to hell. You've done 3, and then it just gets worse from there until you finish.
Sean, do you want to tell us a little bit about that finish line? When you're coming down the chute, you see all the runners collapsed. What's going through your head there?
Yeah, right at the end, everybody goes hard. You know, gives it their all. Tries for a really fast finish. So, you know, you're just pushing yourself so hard for those last, 2, 3, 4 minutes. But by the time you reach the end, it's definitely nice.
And your teammate Sarah Hewitt, she was talking about giving everything you got. She thinks that you should be collapsing at the very end, giving it your all. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. We're all here to, run as fast as we can and do as well as we can for the team. So, if not giving it your all is just, hurting the team.
So there are your results for the men's race, your top 9 racers. Team-wise, 2 Ontario teams making their schools proud. And what an outstanding finish on the men's side, coming right down to the wire, keeping it very exciting. For the girls, an incredible race by Morel Martins, finishing first and 31 seconds ahead of the next closest racer. Sarah Hewitt finishing 6th for SAIT. And the SAIT women's team winning silver. For Trevor Hoffbauer, I'm Jared Hammer. Thank you for watching the 2014 CCAA Cross Country Nationals on Shaw TV.